Look, I think reports of that nature are very useful because it sort of brings attention or focuses attention of everyone. But the fact of the matter is 17% debt to GDP ratio is not such a terrible state to be in. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we should be approaching 50, 60%, but the fact of the matter is yes, from where the kingdom was to get to that level is clearly something is happening and something is changing, and the kingdom should start to get concerned about that. But then this is not a surprise. We don't live in a static environment. The world changes. Indeed, okay, today the biggest issue for the kingdom somewhat remains the same, but certain things have become much more of a bigger issue and has focused attention. So even before the beginning of this year or the beginning of last year, more like, the kingdom had already recognized a couple of things. One, the demographics is changing. The younger people are coming towards the age when they need to be employed, gainfully employed. And this is not a liability, it's a potential asset. It's provided it's properly utilized. So that issue remains the same, and that's the one that actually needs to be addressed. And that actually is the solution for possibly some of the current problems. Back then itself, the concern was around the fact that the kingdom was way too dependent on one commodity, oil. And that, regardless of where oil was headed, that was already a concern. And linked to the need to create employment, to grow the economy, there was already strategies around industrialization, starting to change the educational structure in order to make sure that the population, or the younger population, are trained in the right way, science, technology, and so on and so forth, to contribute to this industrialization and growth of the economy. So all of that was already starting to happen. So all that happened in 2014 into 2015 is that the world went through another cycle of change due to a variety of reasons. All of a sudden, the value of oil on a marketplace dropped. So the kingdom was already starting to reposition itself, broaden the economy, get the private sector much more involved, and diversify the asset platform. So now, of course, this all becomes much more urgent, because all of a sudden, yes, your single commodity is now being revalued, so your income potential starts to drop very fast. Of course, that then, rather unfortunately, coinciding with a greater regional sort of instability, requiring Saudi Arabia to then exercise its leadership in the region, start contributing towards redevelopment of Egypt, repositioning of Yemen, all these kind of things also adds financial burden. But look, let's not get overly excited about it. I think these kind of reports are good, they focus attention, but there is already quite a lot that is being done. The other sort of important point also is that late King Abdullah had already started to reposition the economy, had already started to take many steps towards addressing these issues. Then, of course, he passed away, and now we have a new administration, and that new administration has embraced that, recognized the urgency of it, and therefore is now revitalized the pace of repositioning and action. And we can see already some of the impact of that, effects of that on the economy. Private sector is much more positive. Private sector is concerned, but at the same time is much more positive about the opportunities that is being given, and definitely poised to participate as the economy starts to broaden itself and get less dependent on the single commodity oil. At this point, I'll tell you, I firmly believe, fine, life would have been so much more easier had the oil prices remained so high. But the reality is, I firmly believe that oil prices at this level for a period is actually good for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because it will allow the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to remain under pressure. And I think just like at personal level, we perform better when we are under pressure. Countries do the same. And particularly given the fundamentals, the foundations are here. And the real foundations that Saudi Arabia already has, that are solid foundations. The people are an asset. They are not a liability. So Saudi Arabia is blessed with that younger group of population that can be utilized and that will be utilized for the benefit of society and for the benefit of economy. The other fundamental that we have in the kingdom is that oil and gas is there. Now, as the oil prices have changed, gas prices have diminished. Look at the history. We will find new ways of beneficiating it, utilizing these things more valuably and adding value. And the kingdom will get involved in more tertiary investments, looking at using these products, these commodities, rather than just sell the commodities, turn them into goods and services. So all of that gives us an opportunity. The mining potential of this country has not been tapped. That's something that is starting to get tapped. And again, rather than just export primary metal, the kingdom will be able to beneficiate. There is an established industrial platform, so that sort of industrial culture exists. Now is an opportunity for us to then build on that. Fantastic, high quality research and development institutions have already been established and are still getting, new ones are still getting rolled out. So there is even an opportunity for us to create knowledge, to add to knowledge, localize innovation. And there's a lot of money available still. In fact, what this sort of crisis, in inverted commas, is helping is forcing people to relook at how they deploy capital. And quite a lot of people are, in fact, bringing capital back in. Government is relooking at how it deploys its own assets rather than park it around the world in treasury bills and investments in foreign companies. There is also a refocus on how to utilize the domestic wealth for the benefit of the economy and for the multiplication of the economy. So all of this is, these are all the sort of fantastic things. Now, underneath it all, of course, risks, like in anything that we do, exist. We just need to understand those risks and mitigate and manage those risks. And I think the kingdom is well poised. So I'm the eternal optimist perhaps, but I think there is lots of reasons, real valid reasons to be optimistic.